Okay, we're going over lesson 3-4 today. This is just going to be one video. Remember, it's just one video because you guys do actually have that homework assignment. You need to get that factoring packet completed. It needs to be completely done. Okay, today we're going to talk about lesson 3-4, which is solving quadratic equations by factoring. So before, you guys were just given expressions. Now we're going to be having equations. And when I'm saying equations, I mean you're going to be having things with equal signs. So x squared plus 2x minus 3 equals 0. Okay, how do I solve something like that? So, first off, why are we factoring? Okay, so they've given you the equation x squared plus 2x equals 3. Okay, so I want you guys to solve for that. Up until this point, any time that I've told you guys to solve for something, we would try to isolate our x, right? So, issue. Can I add x squared and 2x together? Can you add those two together? The answer would be no. You cannot because they are not like terms. So, it's not like I can combine them together to give me one single x, okay? So, other option. We usually try to get x by itself. So, what if I subtract x squared, and then I get a 2x equals negative x squared plus 3. Okay, trying to get x by itself, divide by 2. Divide by 2, I get x equals negative x squared plus 3 all over 2. Did that really give us an answer either? No, because we still have an x squared on the other side. So we don't know what x equals because there's x's on the other side. What if I tried to get x squared by itself? Well, if I did that, I would subtract 2x minus 2x. X squared equals a negative 2x plus 3. I could square root that to get rid of the squared. Again, does that really tell us our answer? No, it says that x equals the square root of negative 2x plus 3. That's not giving us a number. Okay? So the most important thing you guys will get from this page here is if you see an x squared and ax, I don't know how you do that. If you see an x squared and an x, the only way to solve is by factoring. Okay? So just to reiterate that, if you see an x squared and an x, okay, if there's just an x, we know how to solve that. If there's just an x squared, we can solve those two. You just have to take a square root to be able to make that work. But if there is an x squared and an x, if there's both of them, the only way that you can solve that is by factoring. Okay? So, let's practice then. Over here on the next slide. Okay? I've got x squared plus 2x equals 3. Now, we need to factor to be able to solve this. But before you factor, you have to get the equation into standard form. And what I mean by getting the equation into standard form is I mean we needed an ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So basically your step 1 is you need to set equal to 0 or make it equal 0. Okay, so if I'm trying to solve x squared plus 2x equals 3, I need this to equal 0 in order to factor. So I need to subtract 3, and when I do that, I get x squared plus 2x minus 3 equals 0. Okay, so that has to be your first step. This will not work unless it equals 0. It has to equal 0. Okay? So, I've got x squared plus 2x minus 3 equals 0. Now that I have it set equal to 0, now I'm going to factor. So, I'm going to take my a times c. So, 1 times 3. 1 times 3 gives me 3. And I need factors of 3 that will subtract to give me my 2. Factors of 3 that will subtract to give me 2. Okay, so 3 and 1 would work for that, so I'm going to have an x squared, I'm going to have a 1x, a 3x, negative 3, okay? And when I'm factoring this, I'm just kind of ignoring that equals 0. Now that equals 0 is still there, but I'm just kind of ignoring it while I'm doing my factor. Okay? So I need my 1x and 3x, they're supposed to subtract. It means they have different signs. So I need one of them to be positive, one of them to be negative. Since it's a positive 2, I need my bigger number to be positive. Okay, negative 1. Now I'm going to do my factoring by grouping. What can I pull out of that? I can pull an x out. I'm left with an x minus 1. Okay, and what can I pull out of these two? They both have a 3. So I can pull out a positive 3. I'm left with x minus 1. So my two factors are x minus 1 and x plus 3. Okay, and remember I said we kind of ignore that equals 0. Well, now we need to fill in that equals 0 as we go through, because it was still there the whole time. We were just kind of ignoring it. Okay, so I've got x minus 1 times x plus 3 equals 0. Now, we're going to use the zero product property to figure out our answers. The zero product property says that if you have a times 0, it has to equal 0. Okay? So since this equation equals 0 here, that means that either this equals 0 or this has to equal 0. One of those two has to equal 0, or both of them could equal 0. So what the zero product property allows us to do is it allows us to say, if I have something times something equals 0, I'm going to be able to set both of those factors equal to 0. So once I get it completely factored, I'm going to set each factor equal to 0. I'm going to set each factor equal to 0. So I'm going to have an x minus 1 equals 0, and I'm going to have an x plus 3 equals 0. And now I'm just going to solve each of those equations. So I need to add 1 to both sides. Gives me x equals 1. So one of my answers is x equals 1. I'm going to subtract 3 to both sides. When I do that, I get x equals negative 3. X equals negative 3 is my other answer. When you are solving quadratics, you will get two answers. Okay? You could get one answer, but if you get one answer, you're going to get one answer twice. Okay? And you'll see that on some of your homework. But when I'm solving a quadratic, I'm going to get two answers. And the reason is because that is an x squared, quadratics are degree 2 equations. Degree 2 equations give you two answers. Okay? So, just to kind of reiterate, how do we solve quadratic equations? First, step 1, you have to get it set equal to 0. Okay? Step 2, we just factor. Step 3, you set each factor equal to 0. Okay? Oh, and then step 4, solving each individually. Sorry. Okay, so you've got 3x squared minus 5x equals 2x. Pause the video, try this one on your own. Okay. So remember, step 1, set equal to 0. So I need to get this 2x over here, minus 2x. When I do that, I get 3x squared minus 2x minus 5 equals 0. Okay, I have to get it set equal to 0 first. Okay, now I'm ready to factor. 3 times 5. 3 times 5 is 15. Okay, I need factors that will subtract to give me 2. 3 and 5 would subtract to give me 2, so I'll have a 3x squared, still have my negative 5, now I have a 3x and a 5x in there, okay? Minus signs, so their signs have to be different. I need it to be a negative 2, so I'm going to put the negative with my bigger number, okay? Check that there, plus 3x minus 5x, yes, that does give me a negative 2, okay? What can I pull out of these first two here? Well, I can pull out a 3 and an x. When I do that, I'm left with an x plus 1. Remember, if you pull everything out, there's still a 1 there. Second one here, I've got a negative 5x minus 5. Remember, if that first one is negative, we definitely need to pull out a negative. Okay, and then they both have a 5, so I can pull out a negative 5. And that leaves me with an x plus 1. So my two factors are x plus 1. Oops. X plus 1 and 3x minus 5. Okay, and then remember I want to come back through and add in my equal zeros. Okay, so once I've got it factored, got that down there, I'm going to set each factor equal to 0. So x plus 1 equals 0, 3x minus 5 equals 0. Okay, I would need to subtract 1, which gives me x equals negative 1. I would need to add 5, and then after I add 5, I would need to divide by 3. So I get x equals 5/3. And there's my other x value. Okay? One more that I want to show you guys, it's just kind of a special case there, okay, is x squared equals 3x, okay? Sometimes when people see something like this, they're going to want to try and solve it, try and get your x by yourself, but remember our rule. If there is an x squared and an x, you have to factor to solve. So before I can factor to solve this, I would need to get it equal to 0, right? So I need to move my 3x to the other side. Move my 3x to the other side. So I've got x squared minus 3x equals 0. Now this is where people usually get really confused on it. X squared minus 3x equals 0. Well, how do I factor that? You only have two terms. So I can't do the a times c and find my factors, right? I only have two terms. If you only have two terms, there's only two options. Okay? It could be a difference of squares. Is that a difference of squares, though? You've got a 3. Can you take the square root of 3? No, we can't. So it's not a difference of squares. Then, if it's not a difference of squares, the only other option is factoring out a greatest common factor. So if I look at this and I look at this, what do both of those have in common? Well, they both have an x in common. So I can pull an x out, and when I pull an x out, I'm left with an x minus 3 on the inside. So that's all I can do to factor that one there, is I can just pull an x out. Okay? Now, I've pulled the x out. Now I need to set each factor equal to 0. So everybody sees, okay, x minus 3 equals 0. Okay, I set that factor equal to 0. So what's the other factor? Well, the other factor is just my x. So I'm also going to set x equal to 0. So x equals 0, I don't even have to solve that one. That one's just given to us right there. X minus 3 equals 0. I need to add 3 over to the other side. And when I do that, I get x equals 3. Okay? So that's all I have for you guys for solving equations by factoring. So go ahead and do the on your own problem, and also make sure that you have that homework packet done as well. I'm going to be looking for those when we get to class next time.